Now listen to me carefully, brothers and sisters. Did you know that there wouldn't be a white person if we didn't exist? Did you know that all the races came from us? Did you know that you are the mother and the father of every human being that lives on this planet, that they all started from the black man and woman? They're not going to teach you this in school. And you probably didn't go far enough in school to study genetics. But I want to share this with you because you need to rap about this. There was a great white anthropologist. His name is S.B. Leakey, L-E-A-K-E. You can Google him, look him up. Leakey wanted to find the origin of man. He may have stopped in Europe, but he didn't stay there because life did not originate in Europe. You know where he ended up? In Africa, looking at the bones of ancient people. Now, did you know there's a science that they could take your bone and say, oh, this is a black person, or this is a Native American, or this is an Asian, or this is a white person, because your genetic structure is such that you have the strongest of bones. They tried to make slaves of our native brothers and sisters, but it destroyed them. But the more they put on us, we survived.
For more than 40 years. So it's incredible now to have the DNA data that really shows us what this guy looked like. You know, the hair, the eyes, the face, that combination of blue eyes and dark skin, really very striking, something we wouldn't have imagined. And to also get from the DNA, you know, details of his biology, the fact that he couldn't digest milk as an adult. That's something that came really with the advent of farming. And 10,000 years ago, people in Britain didn't have that. And of course, it's very striking. For a 10,000-year-old human, our expectations a few years ago would have been that this individual would have had, you know, maybe dark hair, but fairly pale skin, possibly blue eyes. And what we've got is a quite unusual combination of this dark, slightly curly hair, really quite dark skin, and quite striking blue eyes.
1, 2, 3, come on!
There were no Indians here when Christopher Columbus got here. There were people from Africa who had been here for over 10,000 years before Christopher Columbus was born. It's time for us to teach our children the truth.
Before there was any such thing as a Republican or a Democrat,
we were black. Before there was any such thing as a Mason or an elk, we were black. Before there was any such thing as a Jew or a Christian, we were black people. In fact, before there was any such place as America, we were black. And after America has long passed from the scene, there will still be black people.
Oh my God. I had a little back and forth with this guy because he was claiming that black people were the first cowboys and they invented cowboy hats. When the Spanish first came to the New World, they brought cattle with them. And they taught the indigenous Mexican people how to ride horses and how to wrangle cattle. Now, those first people that were taught how to ride horses and how to wrangle cattle were called vaqueros. They were people who worked with cattle on horseback. That's what that word means. And as you look at the etymology of the word, of the history, the meaning of that word, it slowly changed to buckaroo. It's more of the anglicized word of saying vaquero. There was also caballeros. They were people who rode horses. And you can slowly hear how that changed to cowboy. Now, am I saying that there were no black cowboys? No. There was people from all different races that worked as vaqueros or cowboys. But to say that black people were the first cowboys? Come on, man. And to say that they invented cowboy hats? Are you so for real?
Colors are not a mixture between black and white. First of all, we are the descendants of the first people of the world according to science. Not only of South Africa. Every nation on the planet derives from us. The Chinese, the DNA is traced back to us. The Indians, the white men, the black men, scientifically proves that all of them come from us. So, being us is being most original. There's no one that's more original than us.
All right, racists.
This black man's DNA was older than Homo sapiens, older than the bones found in Ethiopia, older than the 300,000-year-old remains discovered in Morocco. The moment they saw it, scientists realized something terrifying. Everything we were taught about where humans came from and when they emerged might be wrong.
This is a continuation of yesterday's lecture, continuing down the anthropology journey, since it's a common rebuttal thrown around by the natives. We uncovered the anthropology of the Black American woman yesterday. Today, it's about the originality of the Black American man. When scientists examined the DNA of Albert Perry, an indigenous Black American man from South Carolina, they uncovered a genetic lie. Albert Perry's Y chromosome, the strand of DNA passed from the father to the son, didn't fit into any known genetic category. His genes were much older than any genetic record they had of anyone they tested. The discovery, published in 2013, revealed that Albert Perry carried haplogroup A00, which is the oldest known male lineage ever identified. And this lineage is believed to date back more than 300,000 years. Long before the appearance of Homo sapiens as we know them. In other words, this South Carolinian carried within him the oldest genetic signature of the human race. Albert Perry's genetic code forced science to acknowledge that human history is far more direct than the textbooks suggest. It also reaffirms what Black Americans have been saying. Black people, but namely Black Americans, are the start of life. While the Maxwells and the Rothschilds are paying idiots to tell everyone that Black Americans are from Africa, the more we look into South Carolina, the more we start to realize that may just be the location where American life began. There was such an effort into destroying the power of the indigenous people of the Carolinas, like the 1740 Negro Act of South Carolina, which criminalized literacy and erased distinctions between Negro, mulatto, and Indian. It was also the start of ownership and controlling every element of a person's life based on race. It happened long before this, but this was when it was codified into law. The hatred and the concerted effort to destroy the heritage and history of the Black Americans only proves that the Black experience is a living continuation of an ancient global lineage. Perry's Y chromosome reminds us all that human civilization did not begin in captivity. It began in consciousness. Genealogy is higher than spirituality, because knowing your bloodline reveals who you are and how long you've been here. And Albert Perry's DNA rewrote science, which means, Black Americans, it is now your responsibility to rewrite your understanding of yourselves. Don't let people who are inferior to you and are ashamed of their origin story convince you to be ashamed of yours. Whether you call yourselves Moor, Hebrew, Indigenous, the truth is this: your ancestors built and governed this land long before the idiots arrived. You have every right to be proud of that, and to remind everyone every day if you want to. This land is yours.
Okay, I asked this question already in my comments. Nobody has been able to answer. I'm going to ask one more time. For the Black people, the Black Americans who say we were already here prior to 1492, your ancestors have been in the Americas, you're from the Americas. What was your language prior to 1492? Any indigenous tribe can answer this question. Any Native American can tell you this, what their tribes were, what their languages were, what their culture is, because that's how it works. So if you were already here prior to colonization, what was the language of your ancestors? And please don't name a Native American tribe, because Cherokee people are not Black. They're not. Now, there are Afro-Indigenous people, which means that they are simply mixed. They are mixed. They have both Native heritage and African heritage. They're mixed. But if you are 100% Cherokee, like somebody tried to come in my comments say, I'm 100% Cherokee, all of us are not African. If you're 100% Cherokee, you shouldn't even be in my comments. Because 100% Cherokee means you're not even Black. That's just what it means. So if you are already here, what culture do you identify with? You have to be able to answer that question. You're not a part of the lost tribe of Judah, right? We are able to identify tribes, language, and culture, even through cultural erasure, even through the unaliving of indigenous people. We're still able to track their languages. Anyone can answer this question. You could ask a European right now, where did you come from prior to, coming to the Americas? You could ask a Mexican person this. What tribe? Aztec, Mayans. So answer the question. What tribe are you guys from? And what was your language? I would love to learn.
Let's talk about the truth. There is so much discourse lately about who is native and who is indigenous, and even the nerve to bring up who is the architect of soul food. And what everyone needs to understand is that Black people are the earth. Black people are the only unmutated humanity. They told you humans came from Africa like it was a migration story. But that's not the truth. The truth is, Africa is the first face of the earth. And blackness is the source of all biology. Everyone else? Genetic drift, mutational echo, survival glitches adapted to ice and exile. Let's talk origins. The Black woman is the womb of the world. Forget the Eve in the garden story. That was a stolen metaphor. The real Eve lives in the woman's mitochondria. And not just any women. Melanin-rich, thick-hipped, thick-lipped, and copper-toned. Elegant, poised, literally perfect, planet-rooted Black women. White women don't carry the full ancestral genome. Asian, Mexican, and Native women only carry fragments. Black women carry the total code. She doesn't reproduce diversity. She births the whole species. When small African offshoot groups migrated north, they weren't evolving. They were mutating, adapting to survival, not thriving. That's where lighter skin, narrow nostrils, reduced melanin, and behavioral changes began. All signs of environmental stress, not superiority. You don't get white by evolving. You get white by forgetting the sun. And that forgetting is not advancement, it's progression. The white genome contains 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. Let me repeat, they didn't just descend from humans. They were cavemen. Black people have 0 Neanderthal admixture. That's not a joke. That's biology. Black people are the originals. Non-Black people are the remix. The problem is, the remix decided to express its evil nature by attempting to erase the original track. Let's talk indigenous. The term indigenous was invented by settlers to decide who was native enough to be managed, named, and displaced. But indigenous is a political term, not a genetic one. And political terms can't overwrite blood memory. Being first on the continent does not make you first on the planet. However, Black people being first on the planet means they are first on every continent. The Black genome is Earth's source code. Everyone else is just running a copy of their biological operating system. The war against Black genetics is a war against humanity. Melanin isn't pigment, it's the processor. It's the molecule that translates solar energy into life. Plants have it, animals have it, humans need it. Black people have the highest concentration of it, which means black people don't just live on Earth, they translate it. They are not just a race, they are the root species. Black isn't a color, it's the motherboard. Every other group, adaptations, mutations, and mistakes. This isn't supremacy, this is truth. Black people didn't come from Africa. Africa came from black people.
If you see the ancient god of Vietnamese, he's black. The ancient god of Hawaiians, he's black. The ancient god of the Indians, Vishnu, is black. The ancient god of Chinese, Buddha, is black. Are these Africans? No, European will tell you this is parallel development. And we sit around and accept this because he wants to develop his concept of white supremacy, and if he wasn't there first, then it didn't happen. You have pyramids in Egypt. You have pyramids in West Africa, and you have pyramids in Central America. You have those great big thick-lipped, big-nosed megaliths in the Ivory Coast, and you have them in the Olmec civilization here. But did they cross the ocean? No, because Columbus discovered America. So, if everything around the equatorial belt is black and black culture and tropical people, why? How can we possibly believe that they went all the way up through Siberia and then dispersed? What is the purpose of such a stupid interpretation of the dissemination of humanity? That is how deep white supremacy goes. In the oceanic belt of the equator, what do you see? Little black people here, little black people here, little black people here, little black people. But did they go that way? Because they want to say the European was the first person to cross the Atlantic Ocean, right? Now, how difficult is it to get across the Atlantic Ocean? Well, maybe they didn't just come through the Bering Strait. Maybe they went across the Indian Ocean, which is twice as wide as the Atlantic, or the Pacific, which is 3 times as wide as the Atlantic, rather than say Africans left the equator belt of Africa and went right across the Atlantic to Brazil. And there are no 25,000 or 30,000-year-old fossils in Canada. Rather than tell you they came across the ocean, how difficult is it to get across the Atlantic Ocean? But Europeans didn't know that Africans, ancient Egyptians, were wise enough to actually make all kinds of boats that could go across the ocean. They knew all this kind of technology. So what they did, to get back to the concept of epistemology, they tell you the migration only came through the Siberian Strait, and then people reverted into these phenotypes. These are assumptions we're accepting to keep the idea that there is only one way to get here. Now, here's the second thing. In Egypt, you have pyramids. The Nile was wet 7,000, 9,000 years BC. It was wet.
All right, racists, we're going to address this again since the inferior people are struggling. Black Americans are the only indigenous people on this land. Melanated people are the only people around the world who are indigenous on every land, no matter their ethnic group. Uncivilized lands all have the same genetic connection. Melanated skin with varying shades of brown. And those groups are not connected to Africa, just like Black Americans aren't connected to Africans ethnically. The actual American Indian, known as the Black Americans, are the ethnic group of North America, not descendants of Africans. Let's dismantle the greatest public relations fraud ever committed, the desperate multiracial campaign to erase the true indigenous Black American from this land. There is a coordinated effort, a relentless lie, designed to make Black Americans believe they are a guest in someone else's house. But the unchangeable archaeological and historical truth is that Black Americans are the foundation. They were here first. And by here, I mean the world. Every country. Every strip of land. And they built the civilization that we are all destroying. The lie about Africa is to confuse and mislead so that the theft can keep going on. Black Americans weren't even considered African American until 1988 by Jesse Jackson, a known Cherokee Indian. So they'll pay a Black American leader to lie and sell out, while classifying himself correctly despite the lie. If Black Americans came from Africa by boat in the 1600s, America didn't figure this out until 1988? And this isn't just a white lie. This is a lie woven by $5 pretendians, by secret treaties between immigrant groups, by decades of policy and propaganda all aimed at one single goal, convincing the world that the original people of the soil simply do not exist. They have every story in the world about the false history. And then you ask for ship manifest and evidence of ships, and then suddenly they can't produce them. But they could show you evidence of the Titanic hundreds of feet under the ocean. They won't even show you the entirety of the Titanic under the water. Only a corner of this ship. They still parse that history. They have reclassified the true indigenous people, renamed you, and redrawn maps around you, hoping you would forget the land your spirit is made from. Now they deploy their little native influencers online, armed with fraudulent petitions and digital picket signs, begging platforms to remove you from your own story. They are performing a pathetic pantomime of indigeneity. If you are indigenous, why would you need outside help? What are they protecting? If you're truly indigenous Native Americans, how could someone take that from you? Why the sudden panic? Every post they make, every petition they circulate is an admission. You've been caught, and now history will be made. Every other race are the visitors. It is time, Black Americans. Time for you to start acting like the host in your home, because all of this is yours. It is time you start acting like the host.